Hey guys, it's Brianna. Today I'm going to be doing an informative presentation on the unbelievable reproductive strategies of sharks. So let's just go ahead and dive right in. Most people see sharks as cold-blooded killers and powerful apex predators, but a lot of people fail to realize how truly fascinating and unusual those reproductive strategies are. So today I want to talk about how those reproductive strategies differ from a lot of different animals. First, I'm going to explain the different species and how they reproduce. Second, I'll be talking about how fertilization occurs in sharks. And third, we're going to discuss the unusual extreme reproductive phenomena such as asexual reproduction and how embryos fight inside the womb. I chose this topic because I've always been interested in marine biology. Ever since a little girl, I wanted to be a marine biologist, but it just didn't work out that way. I became a nurse instead. But maybe in the next lifetime, I'll get to experience that. But during my research, I did use credible sources such as NOAA Fisheries and the Smithsonian Ocean. So let's just go ahead and dive right into our first topic, which is the 3 different ways that sharks reproduce. Our first species is Oviparous. The Oviparous species lays their eggs into the water, and all of these eggs are protected by these little covering or cases called mermaid purses. I personally think these sound so gorgeous and I want one so bad, but it probably doesn't even look like what I'm picturing in my head. So let's just move on to the second species, which is Viviparous. Viviparous species, the embryos develop in the mother's belly and they receive nutrients through a placenta-like structure, so the same as humans. Third, we have the Ovoviviparous species. This species, an egg is in the mother's belly and it develops there for a little while. It hatches, and then the mama shark gives birth to a live baby shark. So all of these species show how diverse shark reproduction truly is. Next, we're going to dive into how fertilization occurs. So most fishes, or most species of fishes, they release their sperm and their egg into the water and then boom, the magic happens like that. But sharks do not operate like that. They reproduce through something called internal fertilization. Internal fertilization occurs because male sharks have a extra reproductive organ called a clasper. The clasper allows them to insert the sperm into the female in that way. And depending on which one of those reproductive strategies that they use, depends on whether the egg will be, or whether the embryo will be an egg or be a live baby. Lastly, I want to talk about the extremely unusual reproductive behaviors. The first one is called parthenogenesis. This is an asexual thing where the female does not need a male to produce offspring. The second extreme unusual behavior is something called intrauterine cannibalism. This is where the embryos fight in the mother's womb to increase their chance of survival. All of these extreme adaptations help to ensure the strongest offspring survive. So in conclusion, as we can see, sharks' reproductive behaviors are much more complex than we've ever imagined. Today, I discussed the 3 different ways they reproduce, whether that is oviparous, viviparous, or ovoviviparous. Second, I talked about how fertilization occurs. Those males have that extra reproductive organ called the clasper, and it is able to insert the sperm into the female that way. And third, I talked about the unusual extreme behaviors such as asexual reproduction, where the female doesn't need a male to produce offspring, and the intrauterine cannibalism, where the embryos fight to the finish to live to see another day. Understanding these strategies help us to understand how incredible and biologically diverse sharks are throughout our oceans. I really appreciate you guys for listening to my presentation, and I hope you all learned something and are able to take something away from this presentation. I hope you all have a wonderful night, and I'll see you guys next time.